Ontarians, batten down the hatches, lock up your daughters, and if you have a nuclear fallout shelter in the backyard, hunker down. No, a zombie apocalypse isn't headed your way. Rather, come Labor Day weekend, beer priced at $1 a bottle will once again be legal in Ontario. Oh, the horror, the horror. Well, par for the course, newly minted Ontario Premier Doug Ford is fulfilling yet another promise he made on the election circuit. Namely, come Labor Day weekend, it will once again be legal to sell beer for $1 a bottle in Ontario. Can you believe it? This was actually prohibited under the nanny status who made up the Wynne Liberals, a party that seemed to channel its alcohol policy via those matrons running the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Oh, it's all so embarrassing, really. And only in Canada would one come across the very idea of the state implementing laws to keep cheap beer, or more accurately, reasonably priced beer, out of the hands of its citizens. But in realms like Ontario, alcohol is priced in accordance to something called, wait for it, the non-discriminatory reference price. The NDRP is bureaucratese for minimum floor price. Yeah, I know. Why don't they just call it a minimum floor price, eh? Incredible. Anyway, the ostensible reason of having a minimum floor price, which in Ontario is currently $1.25 per bottle of beer, dovetails into the government's rationale as to why it should operate a virtual monopoly when it comes to booze sales. And that rationale is something called social responsibility, which is yet more bureaucratese that translates into the following: only government, not the private sector, can be entrusted to sell a product that is potentially dangerous if misused. Is anyone buying that? Alas, part and parcel of social responsibility means charging high prices for beer, wine, and liquor. Because the theory goes, if the great unwashed masses are allowed to drink cheap booze, then they'll blow Junior's milk money on alcohol and descend into a permanent state of drunkenness, maybe even get behind the wheel of a car in an inebriated state. Oh, the anarchy that awaits should Buddy be allowed to buy a Budweiser for $1. Yeah, that's the ostensible policy reason, but perhaps the real reason for expensive hooch is no doubt to virtue signal and, of course, to make more tax revenue off the stuff. Hey, gotta pay for that bureaucracy and the salaries of those toiling in the public sector unions somehow, you know. Besides, monopolies by their very nature tend to be abusive, but Premier Ford, who comes from a business background, is obviously more attuned to the ways in which the free market economy works. So if a brewer can indeed make a profit by pricing the beer at $1 a bottle, then why should government stand in his way? And maybe, just maybe, the people of Ontario can act in a responsible enough fashion when it comes to purchasing beer that is priced less than $1.25 per bottle. Alas, the usual suspects on the progressive side will no doubt spin this discount as a wicked thing. In fact, is there an over-under line in terms of when the first lefty will chastise Doug Ford for being, oh, I don't know, racist for charging beer at $1 a bottle? Hey, these days in Ontario, everything from trimming city council to wearing a bulletproof vest is racist. I'm sure there's some way to play the race card here when it comes to cheap beer too. In the meantime, I think I need a drink to both celebrate and drown my sorrows. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, the Rebel has a brand new app. Please download that app and take the Rebel with you wherever you go.